The last thing he remembered seeing was the ground rushing up to meet him, and then everything was black. As he starts to come to, he hears strange voices. He doesn't know what they're saying. They're speaking in a strange language. But he can tell they're people. And he's worried. He starts to open his eyes, and he sees life forms from the planet standing over him, watching over him. And he realizes that these beings, these Sims, have been taking care of him. They must have found him, and they must have tended to his wounds. He doesn't know how long he's been out, or even where he is in relation to his ship where he crashed. But all he knows is he's glad he's undercover, because otherwise these people would know he's not one of them. He realizes as these people are trying to talk to him that he can't understand a thing that they're saying. So he does something completely crazy. He knows it's a risk, but in his weakened state and being lost and unable to get back to his space station or communicate with his people, he has no choice. He uses his brain power. He changes them so that they can understand him and he can understand them. When he greets these people, he realizes that he doesn't know what to call them. They don't know what to call themselves. They don't really have names. They've always just associated themselves in a tribal sense as, this person is my father, they're my cousin, they're my son, my daughter. It's all family kind of relationship type names, how they relate to each other. And so he decides he's going to give these beings names. Names that were either historical in his world or important somehow. So he gives them names. And he tries to tell them his name, but unfortunately he knows that there's no way they would ever be able to say his name. So he just tells them what he is when they ask, "Who are you?" He tells them he's a scientist. But of course they have no idea what a scientist is. Hey Space Muffins, it's Spacey Sims, and we are here with the first actual episode of Life in Stardust, Sims History Challenge. And as you can tell from the intro, this is a little awkward. There's some odd things going on. So basically what we're probably going to do, what most of this first episode really is going to be, is just kind of explaining to you the purpose of this LP and challenge and what's going to be going on and that kind of a thing. And introducing you to our characters and stuff like that. So, I don't have all of the details, but Cloudseeker created a challenge on the Sims forum. I will try to remember to link it in the description field below. If I don't remember when I first upload this, I will add it. Somebody remind me and I'll add it. But sorry, I just bashed my microphone. I was gesturing, like pointing to an imaginary description box because I talk with my hands. It's bashed my microphone. But anyway, so yes, Cloudseeker created a history challenge, and that is a good part of the inspiration for this. But let me actually kind of go into how this came about. So, I am a custom content hoarder. We know this. If we've seen any of my other LPs, you see I have custom content up the wazoo, and I have so much custom content it takes my game like 10 minutes to load. I find it cute when people are like, "Oh, I've got like 500 pieces of custom content." I'm like, "That's adorable. I have like 5,000 in one folder." Literally, I mean, I keep everything separated, clothes, built by, whatever, and I have thousands and thousands of pieces of custom content because I am crazy. But anyway, so I'm out there looking for custom content, and all of a sudden I come across stuff that's like prehistoric kind of era stuff, like cave people costumes and like objects and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so cool. And I was like, oh, I wish I had found this before or knew that this existed, because how awesome would it be to do like a legacy challenge where like your Sims start out as cave people and they progress. Like, and of course, you have to know that somebody's thought of this before, right? Obviously, that's why there's the custom content. But I didn't really think much of it. I just started saving that. Anytime I saw kind of historical kind of stuff that I thought was really neat, I saved it in a folder in my Sims, where I keep all like my download links for like sites that I like and stuff. Sorry, my allergies are kind of acting up, so I'm sorry if I sniffle and stuff. But anyway, so I saw that and I started saving it. And then one of our awesome space muffins, Mark Lowell, had posted on the channel and suggested using sci-fi names as like a naming convention for like a legacy. And I love that idea because I love sci-fi. So I was like, that's awesome. And I wish I had like a series that we could do that with. But like, because I'm kind of doing that with my Pendragon Legacy. We're using like Arthurian legend and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that. So this, I was like, I love this. And then I was like, well, yeah, but I already have the kind of history kind of thing that I want to do. Like that challenge that's kind of, I knew I wanted to do it, but I'm like, I'll wait till things wrap up and then I'll think about it. And then I started thinking, I wonder if I could do sci-fi names with that. How would I do that? That would be kind of weird, you know? I mean, that would be cooler than like naming them like Grog and like, you know, like for like cave Sims. Like, I don't know what cave people names were, but I highly doubt they were like, you know, sci-fi names. I don't think any like cave person was named C-3PO, you know what I'm just saying? But anyway, so I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, well, what, oh my God. And then Life in Stardust just happened. So the story, the backstory, if you watched the first part of this, the intro, teaser, backstory episode, came about like because of Mark's suggestion of using sci-fi names and my idea of trying to do like a historical kind of like through the years kind of a thing. And it all just kind of meshed. So as you can kind of see, our alien, his race put life on this planet, which we are calling Stardust. That is the name of our planet. Originally it was Symptopia, but Stardust just happened and it sounds so pretty, and then it just morphed into that's the name of the planet. That's why it's Life in Stardust, and we are creating it. And that kind of idea of like putting the spark of life actually came from Star Trek, because I'm pretty sure it was in The Next Gen. There was an episode where there was a race of aliens that were talking to like humans and Vulcans and like, dude, we put life on your planets. Like, you're here because of us. And it was basically like, that was kind of like, I was kind of like, oh, that's a good, yeah. And it kind of like, that kind of added into like the sci-fi naming conventions and then trying to do like all this stuff. And it just became this. So that's what we're going with. That's how this backstory came about. The whole purpose of this challenge and what I had wanted to do was do it like, so, okay, hey, we have this generation and they're cave Sims, they're primitive Sims, they don't have like all the modern stuff, and then go. And I had remembered when I had found this custom content, I'm like, there's a challenge on the forums that's like, I know there's something about it. I think it's the Decades Challenge, where you go through different decades each generation, and that one's a little more specific in, here's the 1900s and the 1910s and everything. So that's good if you want to experience like a tighter knit kind of challenge. And I kind of remember that, like, okay, I remember there's something, and it's like, oh, and then this era you can't have like computers and this and that, whatever. So I went and I found the history challenge, which Cloudseeker did. I mentioned that earlier, so again, I'll put the link. And that one kind of fit better with what I was thinking of. And that's when I realized that all of this custom content I was finding was made for this challenge. Like, Cloudseeker made this challenge, and people were like, oh, let's make historical custom content so that our challenges can look more authentic. Brilliant. So, you think I would have, but anyway. So, the history challenge is kind of what I'm using as a guide. Of course, we know me by now. If this is your first experience with my channel, welcome and a hi. But for those of you who have been around or watched other challenges, you kind of know this, but we'll go through it just for anybody who might be new. I don't do challenges 100%. I do not, if I find a challenge on the forums that I really like, I don't follow it like, I have to do this, I can't do this. I use them as general guidelines, to kind of help me shape a story and help me kind of keep on track and not get, lost or bored or just like rambling. I mean, you can tell obviously right now I ramble. Anyway, but it just kind of helps keep me on a path. And that's kind of what's helped me stay more interested in The Sims as opposed to like The Sims 3. I would start trying to do a legacy challenge, and every single time I loaded the game, I would build a new house, a new family, do all this, and like spend hours doing that and play for like 10 minutes and then never go back. And like, I barely played with families because I got bored. Like I didn't have goals. So the challenges on the forums kind of helped me not fall into that rut with Sims 4. But anyway, so I'm using Cloud Seeker's challenge as a guide to how I'm going to kind of follow this challenge. So I'm not going to go through the rules for each, time period or generation. I advise you, if you really want to delve into that, definitely check out the challenge. I'm just going to tell you kind of how it's relating to what I'm going to do. So I'm basically going to I really liked how Cloud Seeker set up the time periods, and I'm going to kind of follow that kind of a general idea. And now I want to stress this now so I don't have to stress this down the road. So please, huge disclaimer, huge red flag, stars right here. Please do not, I'm begging you guys, please don't post comments that say, well, that's not historically accurate, or that's not how it happened, or that's not right, or that doesn't fit in that time period. This is not human history. This is the history of Stardust. And while it does look very similar to human history and evolution, it is not human history. It is not going to be the same. This is an alternate reality sci-fi fantasy universe. So please, I just want to stress that, because I know someone's going to watch something and go, well, that fashion wouldn't have fit in that time period, or that's not accurate. And it's like, I'm not trying to like give you a history lesson through The Sims, There are channels for that, actually. And there are YouTube channels, and there are people who do videos like that, and that's awesome. If you want to see those, go check those out. That's not what this is. This is, yes, there are going to be things that obviously fit, like, hi, we had a prehistoric era, but obviously we didn't have an alien that put life on our planet as far as we know. They speak perfect English, or Simlish, obviously cave people didn't. And of course, even though I cleared the world, there's no other houses, all the rest of the Sims are walking around in normal clothes. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, we just gotta take it with a grain of salt here. We're gonna try to be as, good as we can, but it's never gonna be perfect. Because I'm not gonna spend all my time dressing townies up in, prehistoric cave people clothes. But, and also each time period is kind of a mesh. It's like a conglomeration, and we're jamming it, and it might not flow properly in how human history would flow or whatever, but it's just kind of how it worked out in my mind, like I feel like it would fit together. So it's never going to be perfect. The fashions are never going to be right. Things are never going to be 100% accurate, but I just want to stress that this is the history of Stardust, not Earth. So it's not going to be the same, but you might see similarities, obviously. Okay. So with that being said, I am going to kind of just explain. So in the history challenge, you go through the first generation is the prehistoric. So that's like what we're going with first. Then you get into early civilization, where you have like Greek or Roman or Egyptian kind of, influences. And then we get into the Middle Ages, medieval kind of time period for the third generation. The fourth is the Old West or colonial period. Then we get into the industrial Victorian steampunk kind of era, and I fell in love with that part because I love steampunk, so woo, yes, I love it. Then we go into the 1920s, and then we go into a modern era. But now, what I wanted to do, because I had was thinking okay, how do I do time periods. And I love the way this was mapped out and this worked perfectly. But I adjusted it a little in adding in some kind of influences and time periods in with other ones and adding a couple of my own. So what I'm thinking of doing is there's at some point where I would love to add in kind of, okay, so I'm just going to go through, we're going to do the prehistoric, which is the first one. With the early civilization, I'm going to add in some Asian kind of influences because I found a lot of really great custom content that has what I feel like with the Asian flair in it could kind of work with some of like the more Greek and Roman style clothing that I have. And I plus I wanted to be able to have more than just a couple of outfits for my Sims. Like I don't want everybody wearing the same thing. So I figured that would be able to bring in good stuff. We'll be able to throw in some influences like that. So, you know, I'm going to try to work that in there too. So we're going to have some Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Asian kind of stuff going on. Middle Ages and medieval. We're good with that. There's so much custom content out there for that. It's not even funny. The Old West colonial, I'm going to mix in some like, you know, Little House on the Prairie kind of flair and some Civil War kind of stuff in there. You know, that's going to be kind of our time period. And industrial is going to be Victorian steampunk. We got that. The 20s, the Roaring 20s is going to be some 1920s, some 30s, some Edwardian kind of stuff. I have some kind of dresses, and maybe I'm getting my time periods mixed up, but I have some kind of dresses that like when I see them, I'm thinking like Titanic up in here. So I'm like, okay, that works for me, like fit in the time period. And I should know, I mean, I wasn't really good with history, but I was good with more like fashion and like design kind of perspectives. But, you know, my time periods are all kind of off. So if maybe what I'm thinking of Edwardian isn't really Edwardian, but whatever. You'll see when we get there. And then modern, obviously, is modern. But what I want to do is somewhere add in here, and you guys can let me know as we're going through the challenge where you think these would fit best. I want to kind of do like a gypsy traveler, Indian bohemian kind of feel generation. So, you know, kind of like people like think about like the boho kind of items that we've gotten from movie stuff, and like we're brightly colored and or very ornate, and you think of like kind of like some of the custom content I have, like the Indian, like a sari, like they're very brightly colored and they have beautiful embroidery and things like that. So I kind of want to tie kind of all that together in with these like travelers who, you know, they have maybe they mix potions and they sell them, but they're traveling from, you know, their old home to a new home. And I kind of just have this idea of building like their houses to look like little like wagon homes, you know? So I wasn't sure if that made sense to go in between, say, the early civilization and the Middle Ages. So like, you know, because they'll have that Egyptian and Asian kind of flair, which could fall into the Bohemian kind of a thing. And then it goes into the Middle Ages. Or if we go from the Middle Ages to that, we go into this traveler, Bohemian kind of a thing, and then go into the Old West. Because if you think about it, whenever the Old West came about, well, you know, people were traveling, and they were traveling in these like wagons, covered wagons. Granted, it's not exactly the same kind of wagons I'm thinking of, but you know, they were traveling in that before they landed in the Old West and were like, hey, we're out in the West, you know? So kind of thinking like that could work. Like you go from medieval into that kind of a stuff, but I'm not 100% sure where that's going to perfectly fit. So we can figure that out. But I know definitely after the 20s, 30s, Edwardian kind of period, I want to do like a 50s retro kind of thing. So it might be 50s, 60s, 70s kind of funky retro, that kind of stuff. All of that mishmash. Then we'll go into modern, and then I would really love to do a future generation, because that's really kind of what I wanted, because I think that would tie in really nicely at the end of the challenge, because here we have our guy who came from another planet. And then, you know, he's going to tell stories to his family, and it's going to be passed down through generations that they were, you know, that this happened. And of course, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, everybody has their stories, you know, they're like ancient stories, like, you know, that you don't know if it's true or you don't really know, but that's just what you've been raised. That's your belief. That's, you know, your history, that kind of thing. Your fables and fairy tales, like Greek mythology. Maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't, you know? I mean, it's like that. So they're like telling these. It's almost like telling mythology, but turns out it's true type of a thing. And I would love because it's going to take us a while to get through this. I am actually going to play this on short lifespan. And actually, speaking of, let me actually change that. You're supposed to play it on normal lifespan. However, I'm going to play mine on short lifespan just because if I'm only really doing one episode a week, it's going to take forever to get through the challenge. And I don't want... I like to see things progress. And while I do want to enjoy my Sims and play with them, I feel like if we're on, even on short lifespan, with one episode a week, we'll get plenty of time to like adjust and have fun with them and see them grow and change because, you know, we don't need to like, we're not going to super speed through everything, you know? But if we do normal lifespan, 10 generations is going to take me like 10 years and, you know, I might be dead before we finish. And I really, you know, so we can adjust as we go, but I would really love, and I think this is something that was mentioned in the forum thread, that it would be awesome if they, like Cloudseeker might add like a futuristic generation if they add a pack or a stuff pack or game pack or anything that has futuristic kind of content. So I'm keeping that in mind. Like, I want to keep that. But I think for right now, I mean, obviously we're going to go prehistoric into early civilization. I'm thinking maybe more medieval, and then we'll do our traveler bohemian kind of thing before we hit the Old West. If as we're going, when we get into our early civilization, if we feel like maybe the traveler bohemian thing fits better before the Middle Ages, we'll add it in there, like whatever. So that's just that. So again, definitely check out the History Challenge. Also, you know, if you go out to the forums, you can find the Decades Challenge, which has it more specifically. It's not as general of like, it's at basics, I think it starts in the 1900s. So it's not like you're not doing prehistoric stuff, but it's actually, I think that one's pretty cool too, because you get to do, you're doing it more specifically to a specific decade. So it's a little more succinct than jumping from, you know, hey, my mom was a cave person and I'm like in ancient Egypt or something, you know, like, but still. And what I'm doing for mine is we are going to do it as soon as the heir for the legacy becomes a young adult. That's when we will split off, build a new house for them, change their clothes and everything, and start them off as in the early civilization period. I think in the challenge, it's basically like when your heir is a child, I think, or something. Except for prehistoric, because otherwise that would be too fast. So, but I'm going to do it as a young adult because that gives us a good amount of time to do things with it. Her hair is like popping. Oh no, it's her tattoos. I was like, what is going on? So yeah, so that's that. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to our Sims, and then I will show you our lots. I gave you a good backstory about the challenge. I also wanted to thank Mark Lowell again just for suggesting the science fiction names. And this is awesome because I already had given our Sims names, but he suggested these names anyway, and that's perfect. So, yeah. I will also explain. So, obviously, you know, as explained, our alien had to name these people because they didn't have names. So, we're just pretending. Obviously, we're using sci-fi names from Earth, but we're just going to pretend that somehow they're in a back. But, so they all have the last name Stardust because they are on Stardust, and that's what they call this planet. So, we have the leader of our tribe is Han Stardust. Like Han Solo, yes. All right, so he is our lovely, he is, of course, an elder. He has the Angling Ace aspiration. I actually cheated in some, I'm doing two things. Okay, I cheated in some skills for them. Obviously not any skill. Like, he has got, I think, fishing skill and gardening skill. So he's almost really mastered fishing. I did that because technically this is not his first day on this planet. Obviously, he's an elder. He's been here his whole life. He has some skills. I mean, I guess he could have technically had woodworking skill, but I don't really care if they do woodworking. He's gonna do the fishing and everything. And, you know, part of this is our lovely alien guy, who we will get to after. When he was noticing the seismic activity and everything, that's what happened. Like, these people got separated from their bigger tribe. So it's just the three of them now. So they obviously have been living on this planet. They've been going through things. They have life skills and everything like that. So, But anyway, so this is Han Stardust. So he is the leader of our tribe. He's our elder. Again, angling ace aspiration. He is active, family-oriented, and he loves the outdoors. We have his daughter, Leia. You get the theme. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. It's not that I don't like Star Wars, but I'm just not like, oh my god, Star Wars, like, or anything like that. But Han, Luke, and Leia just seem to work perfectly, and, Mark suggested those. And that was perfect, because I had already named them. Just because it fit. Like, those three names just work together, obviously, and hi, So this is Leia Stardust. This is Han's daughter. She is a young adult. She has the freelance botanist aspiration. She loves the outdoors. She's self-assured, and she has a green thumb. And she has... I'm actually going to let this play so these guys can move around and do stuff. Apparently, she just got herself the comedy skill, but I gave her a fishing skill and gardening skill. So she does some fishing, but, Han does most of it. And this little whippersnapper right here is Han's youngest son. So this is Leia's brother, Luke. And he only has motor and whatever, and he's a rambunctious scamp. And he's a glutton. But like you can see they have their little like cave people outfits, and she's got, her tribal tattoos, and so does he. I think one of the things in the challenge is we can let the kids go to school, because obviously, it can't be perfect, but, so, yeah. And let's go over, now, if you've noticed, no, don't go to bed, come here. No, don't go to bed, get out here. This is Scientist. His name is Scientist, because I was trying to think of, like, what his name would be, and in my head I was like, okay, well, he's a scientist, we can just call him, like, we'll just call him Scion for now. And when I was trying to think of backstory, and then I was like, oh, that's good, because he tells them he's a scientist, so they call him Scientist, because they don't know what the hell a scientist is, so that's why his name is Scientist. And this is him, obviously, in costume. These are actually his alien tattoos that show through his human skin. He's got one on the back. But he luckily disguised himself. But the thing is when he disguised himself, there's a bit of an issue. You can see. He's got heterochromia. So he has 2 different color eyes, which I think is awesome. That's just thing. But here is... let's remove your disguise for a second, Boo. This is him out of... we've kind of seen him on the thumbnail. They don't know he's an alien yet, but this is him. You can see he's got some... You can barely see his markings. And he's got... Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. You can't tell because of his thing, but all of those tattoos he's got in the neon blue. Anyway. So, let's put you back in your disguise because they don't need to know you're an alien just yet. So, there you go. And he is... a friend of the world, because, he's just so gregarious and outgoing, and, as this child, and everyone, he drove everyone nuts. And he's outgoing, he's quirky, and he's a tech genius. Yes. And his skills, of course, he has mastered the logic, programming, and rocket science skill. He has some writing skill, because he's been writing reports and everything, and he's pretty handy. But he has absolutely no gardening, no life skills, no nothing. But, were you tired? Is that why you were going in there? No. Anyway. So that's that. Let me show you around our camp. So I used this giant lot. I hate the fact that I had to build a building, but we've just got some awesome, and I'm going to try to remember, or try to provide the links to the main sites where I found, like, this custom content and whatnot, especially for each, like, generation and era. The prehistoric one's not too bad, but it gets way more complicated as we go, especially because some of it I've had, whatever. But anyway, so this is, I blew this up. I made it bigger, but this is a rock tent. So it looks like a pile of rocks, but it's actually like a tent for them to sleep in. And then over here, we have just a little area for them to sit. And this counts as this is a jungle gym. So, so the monkey bars is really, it's just a tree. So I think that is brilliant and genius, because this is what a little child would do. I love that. And then we go back here, and we have, I figured this would be Han's kind of tent by the fishing pond. So this is their little fishing pond over here, and of course they have pea bushes, which is just fantastic. So those are scattered all over. And as you can tell, I put some of the alien plants out because Scion's family created this planet. So of course they're going to put, like, so of course, like, you know, it's going to develop and it's going to have these alien plants mixed in with this other kind of life that developed. This is actually a dance floor, which I think is awesome. And I think this is a musical tree. So I think, yeah, you can listen to the tree. So I think that's awesome. It's some Pocahontas stuff going on right there. But anyway, another pea bush. This is their swimming hole. So, and this is just like a drying rack. I don't think it has a function. But at least it's just like decor. So, you know, this is awesome. So they come here, they've got rocks to sit on, they got their bubblers and stuff like that, and everything. This over here, okay, now, this might not be allowed within the challenge. I had it originally hidden, but then you couldn't click on it. This is their shower. So it's actually like, it looks like a wine barrel that functions as a shower, so it's perfect for like medieval times or whatnot. But I kind of wanted it, and I didn't add any like waterfall stuff, which I really should have, so I might have to go in and do that. So it looks like there's a reason why water would be pouring out of this, but that's their secret shower. Because I wasn't sure if swimming, because sometimes swimming works for hygiene, sometimes it doesn't. There's a mod to fix it so it does, but I figure we'll just add that shower. And then, of course, there's like, these are like baby cribs, so when there are children, they have like, these would be the bassinets, which I just think is ridiculously cute. Another little tent over here for them to sleep in. This is actually a woodworking table, so they can do woodworking, and it looks like an old stone. And in here, one of the things in the challenge was you are allowed to have yoga mats, so I just kind of put one out that tried to look as plain as it could. This is, of course, it's a wall, but like here's cave paintings, so it's like supposed to be inside this cave, and there's some paintings. And this is actually an easel. That's why it's weird colored and it doesn't match my rocks, but... And I tried to hide so you couldn't see there was a wall there. Okay, what's that? And then this, it was unfortunate. I don't like the fact that, okay, I had to put it in walls so you can tell that there's windows and stuff. But it's supposed to be a sauna. It's a prehistoric sauna. But the thing that sucks is you can't use saunas outdoors, and so I had to, I mean, the rocks disguise the roof, but I didn't have any windows, custom content that did the whole thing, so I just put a couple of these doors around here. So it's a little awkward looking, so please forgive that. I just really couldn't do anything else with it. I think if we put walls down, it doesn't look as bad. You know, it just kind of looks like, you know, it actually doesn't work right because you can't see the rocks on the top. Yeah, you know, you can't see the rocks on the top. That one's got a thing in it. And then that's pretty much it. And then it's just all decorative stuff like that. And then, oh, I forgot. Yeah. Over here in the center, we have their little like powwow area. This is where they will cook all their food on this campfire. This is actually a trash bin, which is awesome. And then they can sit around here and like keep themselves protected from the shade and stuff like that, and from the sun. So it looks awkward. There's strange people running around, but yeah, that's basically our prehistoric camp area. So yeah. I mean, this has gone on for freaking forever, and I know we didn't get to play or anything like that. I just wanted to give you the backstory. It's quite obvious my intent is that Scion and Leia will be together, but, you know, we still got to work on their relationship and stuff like that. So, in the next episode, we will actually come back and get some gameplay. And... obviously, we don't need them now, but start thinking of... I actually put together a list of, like, sci-fi names. So if you guys have any names from any kind of science fiction books, movie, anything like that, feel free to provide those names. But what I want, too, is let me know what the name is and where it came from. Because, you know, if it's something obvious, I'm going to know. But also... if it's a little awkward and weird, that's perfect. Like, for example, I would love... like, we've got Luke, Leia, and Han. Okay, fine. Those are kind of normal in the scheme of things. But like, I love Star Trek, so I want to use some Star Trek names. But I'm not going to use like William. I'm going to use Riker as the name. You know what I'm saying? So if it's a last name, if it sounds a little funky, that's perfect. I want to try to avoid typical, like normal human Earth names that you'd hear with people around nowadays. I want it to sound sci-fi. It doesn't need to be like really confusing and weird. I kind of want the mid-range. So like, not quite like Bob, Jane, Susan, and not quite, I can't pronounce it and there's 5 million letters and what in the hell is this? But so using last names from certain people, I have certain names, and I went out and I actually found a list of names, and I got names from like lots of Doctor Who and Stargate and different versions of Star Trek, and there's some other things in there that I'm like, I don't even know what this is, but okay. And so feel free, provide a lot of names. I've got a ton of them. Hopefully some of them are the same. And I'm going to pick and choose. I'm going to be picky because we know I'm picky with my naming, okay? If I know somebody with that name, I can't use it. I can't, because then I just see that person when I see the sim, and I just can't do it. Freaks me out. So I'm sorry. But yeah, so like feel free to leave names, and we'll see. I might add them to my list. I might already have them on my list. But yeah. And then when we come back next time, we will actually get into kind of playing and engaging with them and getting them to know each other and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, even though we didn't really get into much, but hopefully you enjoyed the backstory and understanding where we're going, and hopefully you guys are still excited. I know we got some good excitement going for, the intro. Hopefully you're still excited for how this is going. But yeah. And I think, we have some other things. I have to look at my notes. We might have some other things that I haven't mentioned not about the challenge itself, but just like some backstory stuff and whatnot. But I'm not sure. I think we got most of it, but we'll get there. But anyway, so yeah, remember, leave your names. In this and future videos, we got plenty of time, and yeah. That is about all I want to say. So I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.